Let's get all sorted. I'm James.
And I'm Jeff. Today is the second part of our BrickCon 2015 interviews. We're going to talk to micromanager Steve Oakes, Nicolas Teeywen about his Lego train, and Kevin Mitcham about Great Ball Contraptions.
As always, be sure to visit breakingdads.com.
Breakingdads.com?
breakingdads.com for photos and more from the show. And also, please rate us on iTunes if you've enjoyed. It'll help other people find the podcast. So, what do we have first up?
Well, first up, we get meta in miniature. Steve Oakes talks to us about the micro BrickCon, which is beauty and simplicity combined. This is Jeff at BrickCon 2015. I'm with Steve Oakes, and we're going to take a look at some micro scale. So, Steve, what have you brought for us this year?
Well, you're looking at micro BrickCon. It's a model that's evolved from the 2012 version of micro BrickCon, and it all started when I took some slotted tiles while I was sorting, and I put them in one of the 2x2 cases. This one's happened to be blue, and when I looked at them on edge, the little E shapes, they made me think, well, those could be micro bricks.
Yeah.
And then micro BrickCon happened. Just so it's weird what inspires you, what clicks,
yeah,
and what ends up coming out.
So I see a lot of nautical disaster happening this year. Is that mocking through history, or just you love boats crashing and dying?
Well, first of all, there's only so many little things that you can build. But actually, this is mocking history in a way, yeah, because there are models that represent models or mocks from previous BrickCons.
Okay.
So, we have the world's smallest Death Star.
Yes.
Of course, the sinking Titanic. But what else has been here before? This was a large model last year, the Invasion flying saucer.
Yeah.
And this fishing pole. I love this story. The first time I came here, somebody built a fishing pole, a collapsible one, out of Lego, and they laid it down. And all day, people said, somebody left their fishing pole here. And he got a trophy, and it was spectacular. Yeah. So I built that in homage to him. Beautiful. And finally, he came back and he saw it. So that was great. I like boats, but
yeah. So I guess the question is, building microscale, is that something you do by choice, or do you like the challenge, or is it just your preferred way of expressing your Lego love?
Well, actually, I was misled. The first year I came, I built an 8.5-foot ferry boat, and as a somewhat newbie, I didn't build it in small enough sections to make it easy to bring. So it was awkward here. It was easy to set up, but it was awkward getting it home, and I thought after BrickCon, I need to build small. So then this epiphany happened with the small bricks, and I decided small is good, I can do this. And now you can tell I am bringing much more Lego than I did the first year when I was exasperated by how much Lego I had to bring.
No, it isn't. Like this, MicroCon is definitely a con inside the con. I mean, you could spend hours looking at these displays as your brick built figures are doing, which is, I think, a nice little touch to the whole thing.
I could guarantee you, if I gave a quiz to people that have stood here for half an hour, they would not be able to fill it out with everything that's in here. I mean, it's visually overwhelming in a way, but it's interesting to me what different mocks or mini landers attract people's attention. Mm-hmm. Some people don't care about much, but something gets them excited. So, and also the best part is watching the epiphany, or as the younger folks say, the meta expression wash over people's faces when they look at it. They see Lego, they see small models, but when it dawns on them that they're looking at a mock of the convention itself, that's payoff for hauling it.
Yeah, it's definitely fantastic. I guess my question is, did you have a Dark Ages in your life, and when did you come out of it, and what brought you back to Lego, if you did?
I had a Dark Age. It started at 6. Had to leave my Lego behind, and it just didn't get any more. Then at 36, I had my daughters with me at the rec center. One was taking a dance class. The other one was in the car seat, small enough that all I had to do was just rock her with my foot. And my wife came in, and she handed me a bag of mixed Lego from the thrift store for my dancing daughter. And she said, I saw a staple in there. Will you go through it? So I started sorting, and I came across some pieces that were the Washington State Ferry colors. And I said, I should build a ferry. So I built a ferry.
Which is, it's on the table, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. And then I ended up building a meter-long ferry. And then I spent 5 years collecting enough bricks to make the 8.5-foot ferry that thankfully doesn't exist anymore. And some of it's in here. And yeah, so 30 years of Dark Ages. So
we have to thank a thrift store, a staple, and the Washington State Ferry Service. Is that? That's a pretty amazing way to get back into Lego. I will say, looking at this too, you're going to need more table space next year, ironically. I think the micro con might be taking over the rest of the con.
That's funny that you say that, because it took like 8 hours just to set up the stanchions and the tables on Thursday, and I was kind of whipped by the end, 8 hours. And I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
But
that's it, big enough now, is that?
Marianne, who collaborates with me on this, I called her up and said, you don't need to bring your tables. BrickCon has provided us with 2 islands this year, so you don't have to put them in your suitcase. And she was so relieved. And so we weren't going to have her tables. Well, her friend, she had left those tables at his house, and when he came, he packed them. And he comes up to me and he says, hey, we've got Marianne's tables. And I looked at him and was like, go for it. I'm done. So it could be bigger today.
Yeah.
But I think it's just right for this year.
It's a lot to take in as it is. I can't imagine anymore, honestly. Yeah.
Have you seen the clones? Do you recognize small versions of the larger MOCs throughout the building?
Yeah. And I just saw a Green Lantern, which, because the superhero stuff is going to catch my eye, and I'm in love with that Green Lantern now.
Awesome. You see the guy in the tidy whities and black socks?
Yes.
I can explain that.
Okay.
Lego is really expensive. So. But it's nice. People have collaborated. I built roughly 125 mini landers to populate the crowd, and it just swallowed them. Because we're looking at 6 tables here of micro builds. So 2 other gentlemen came and added a substantial amount. So basically 3 of us built most of the mini landers, but individuals have come and added, like the classic spacemen were added by Bill Ward.
It might be the table with the most collaboration at the con. It'll give everyone a run for their money.
It will. You see the red robot guy?
Yes.
I had all my stuff packed for BrickCon Wednesday night. Of course, I was fiddling with Lego, and I put him together because Wayne, who runs this, I know that he's so busy that he's basically herding cats this week. So I put a couple of nets in his arms and his wrists, and that, you've heard the expression, cat herder, now you've seen one.
That does look, I saw Wayne this morning and he looked very similar to that. I can definitely agree. Thank you for bringing this, and we'll have some beautiful video of this up on the website, and I can promise people if they watch the video 50 times, on that 50th view they will see something they'd never seen before. It's really impressive. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
How cool is Micro BrickCon?
I love it.
I love how this has become a tradition at the show. I also like how collaborative it is. It really is the spirit and reality of the convention in miniature form.
Yeah, those are a beautiful little builds. Mm-hmm. They nail it. They're perfect.
I took a lot of photos of this section because it's like, ooh, look at that. Look at that.
Every time I looked at one, I was like, whoa, that, what? Like, how many bricks is that?
It's, so take your time, look at the photos, and they're just Fun.
And next, in regular scale, you talked to Nicolas Teeywen about Lego Train.
This is Jeff. I'm at BrickCon 2015, and I'm with Nicolas Teeywen. And we're going to talk Lego trains, which is always a big thing at the show. So we have this beautiful train running by us here, and we'll have a nice video up on the website for you. And what can you tell us about it, Nicholas?
So back over 10 years ago, I saw James Mathis's design for the TGV on BrickLink. Not BrickLink, BrickShelf.
BrickShelf, yes.
BrickShelf. And I was immediately like, oh, I want to build this. At the time, orange Lego was hard to come by, and I was, finishing up school, so I put it on the shelf for a while. About 3 or 4 years ago, I realized orange is available. I'm like, I'm going to build this thing.
Yeah.
So I started ordering the parts, which was challenging. Still, because it called for some orange pieces you could only get in Europe.
Yeah.
And I began building it. And as I began building it, I realized, well, you never did the interior. The colors were a little off because I own the N scale and HO scale versions of the TGV, the orange TGV. So I started with this design, then realized I needed to change it to gray, not black. No, Horizon Express is wrong. And then from there, I started making additional changes with newer parts that were available, so I just kind of iterated on it. So now I have the TGV. It's 6 cars plus 2 engines.
Right.
It took 4 power function motors, 2 battery boxes, 1 at each end. After I had it built, I was like, well, I'm going to go one step further. I want the whole thing lit up.
Yeah.
And I used official Lego parts, no cheating, as they might call it. And it was really challenging to route all of the cables through. Interesting side story. I took this to Bricks Cascade in 2015, and I saw a gentleman staring at the train. I walk up, I give him the story, and he's like, "Oh, James Mathis, that's me." And I was ecstatic because I knew of his name, I knew of his work. To see him come, and then we talked about the train. But now that I've built the train and I have it all built in official Lego, I'm totally getting Brick Stuff lights and going to change it up and make it a little easier to work with and a little more advanced by stripping the lights out.
Yeah, I have noticed over the last few years a softening among the used to be a very solid divide between purists and customizers. But I think with all the great third-party vendors that are out there now doing really high-quality work, you're seeing a lot more of that. Although there will always be people that say that's cheating, to which I'd say we're just trying to build the best stuff we can build, right? Does it really matter if it's 100% Lego or, sometimes you got to go out and get Smurfs made. Sometimes you got to go out and get mouse heads made. Sometimes you just want to put lights in that don't have big, massive cables and weigh the whole thing down.
Yes, and there are certain things Lego is going to always do very cautiously, like weapons. And, is it Brick Arms and all of the other vendors that make weapons? I think there's a lot of mocks here that just would not be as impressive without the weapons. So I totally think it's good that people incorporate custom bricks when Lego doesn't do it. I agree. It's nice when people take the challenge on to I'm only going to do this with official parts. And personally, I think it's always good to try to do that. But I also think it's the lights and the custom pieces, they just add a level that Lego is likely never going to do because some of those systems are not kid-friendly.
Yeah.
They're not kid-friendly. They're not necessarily the message Lego would want to portray.
Yeah.
When it comes to things like weapons. So I'm like, go for it, And now Mega Blocks, on the other hand, I don't know about that.
I was just going to say, as long as you're not using Mega Blocks, that's...
Although, occasionally people have to incorporate, I think the Smurfs, the 2 of the Smurfs in there are Mega Blocks.
Yeah.
Because of cost, to get a custom one-off made piece, and that's totally understandable. Again, use the tools that you have available, and cost is always a factor.
So when you go to a brick show,
Yep.
the train is always one of the most impressive things. This one, how many tables across is this guy spanning? How long is this train?
It's 8 cars, and each car is definitely longer than your typical train car. I don't remember off the top of my head how many studs it is. We could count. It would take a minute.
Yeah, that's all right.
But yeah, it's 8 cars. It's very heavy. when you put it on a loop on its own,
Yeah.
it makes the whole loop shift.
Yeah.
And it definitely can go fast in the spirit of the train. On this track, it's a little hard because the radius curves are a little tight, but yeah, I started with just 6 cars, and then I'm like, I have enough pieces. I'm going for 2 more.
Yeah.
I'm going for 2 more. So 8 in total.
Yeah. Well, it's a very fantastic train. Thanks for bringing it, and have a good show. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I love how he walks us through the complexity of the design and build process, like the difficulty he had finding orange colors or different parts. So that was really cool.
Yeah, it really shows the level of dedication needed to pull these builds off.
And it was also interesting to get the perspective on how custom pieces get chosen and implemented, and how those decisions are made, which is something you kind of guess at, but it's nice to hear somebody actually discuss that.
Yeah, and I think as the quality of the custom pieces has gotten better, and in some cases, like the light kits, better than the official options available, there's a bit of a softening on that custom purist divide.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Next up, we follow the bouncing ball.
Yeah, Kevin Mitcham rolls us through the world of Great Ball Contraptions.
All right, we're here at BrickCon 2015, and I'm talking to Kevin Mitcham, and we're talking Great Ball Contraptions. So first off, for the uninitiated, what is a Great Ball Contraption?
A Great Ball Contraption is a mechanical device to move things from a hopper that is 10 bricks high and 10 studs wide, 10 studs deep, to the next hopper that is 10 by 10 by 10. Anything you want to do between those 2 steps is up to you, and we can string those together into a giant loop or to smaller loops, however we like it. That's all a Great Ball Contraption is.
Yeah, so this year at BrickCon we have 4 separate devices going.
I would not say we have 4 separate loops going.
Yes.
I haven't actually counted the devices. I think I have... All right, we can go right now.
Yeah.
So Alex has the glittering wheel, a chain drive, a circular lift, and his pumping station, so that's 4. I have my giant circle, the ball pump, the wave machine, 2 push arms, a single lifter, and 2 belts, so that's 12. I'm not counting the 2 ones that I just used for demo. And then my wife has 1, so that's 13. And hers is just a tall belt.
Yeah.
And then John Sherman down there has a belt into his roller coaster, the ski lift, 14, 15, all right, so 15. Then his stair-step module, the 1x1, the arches, and a turning wheel. So I think that brings us up to 19 modules.
Yeah. My mistake. 19 modules.
The whole point is that because we're all on the same standard, we could have strung all of these modules into a single giant loop. But I don't like doing that here, both because our tables aren't laid out well for it, but also because something's going to break. That is the one thing you know with a ball contraption. And if one thing breaks on a giant chain, the entire chain comes to a stop. Whereas if one thing breaks, and mostly we've got like 5 or 8 module loops here, then just that loop has to stop.
You can definitely tell the people that build the Great Ball Contraptions at the show, because your eyes are always just scanning and darting and where is it going to break, and looking for that and fixing it and getting it going again.
Yeah, I've been really pleased for a while. At various times we've had just one person manning the entire 24-foot of table. And at that point you're looking back and forth constantly, because it's not just how quickly is it going to break, because it goes for tens of minutes without breaking. But when it does get a jam, you want to get right on it, because sometimes you're building up pressure behind it. We try to be good with the slip gears and everything else, so you're not going to burn out a motor, but you still can get all the balls clumped up in one spot, which makes it harder to clear the jam. And so you got to keep this watching back and forth. With 2 people, there's a lot more slack.
Yeah.
Particularly when the folks who actually built their module are sitting around, because they know where it's going to fail.
That's right.
They saw it happen a lot of times at home.
Yes. One thing I always enjoy about the Great Ball Contraptions is watching the people. It's almost hypnotic, the way, especially the kids, they'll just stare at it for a long time.
I liken it to the TV trance that kids will go into, and I consider that the ultimate sort of flattery. Because if you could induce the TV trance where they can't hear their parents, they can't hear anything else that's going on, they're just staring at it in utter fascination. That's sort of the level of satisfaction we're shooting for.
Yeah, and then I think the other thing you look for is just that hypnotic sound that goes with it, that says everything's moving, that click is happening regular, that whir is happening regular.
Oh yeah, it's almost... One of the downsides of how successful or how much we've grown in ball contraption here at BrickCon is that when it originally started out, it was just me and my wife, and I knew the sound of our machine, and I could be having a conversation with you. It's like, nope, I have a jam right here because the sound changed. But between the crowd noise and having 3 times as many modules as we've had in the past, I can just know that the noise changed. I don't know. I can't diagnose on it. You can just say, oh, no, I'm not hearing the right noise. Then you have to go back and figure out what's going wrong. But the sound changes when it fails.
And I don't want to say panic sets in at that point, but panic sets in at that point.
It's definitely an alarm bell. You know, it's sort of like the fire alarm we had earlier here,
right,
where there's an alarm going off. There might be a fire. I'll worry about it eventually, but there's definitely a fire alarm.
Yeah, they are. So what, I guess, why Lego? Did you go through a Dark Ages and come out of it?
I definitely went through a Dark Ages and came out of it. My wife discovered BrickCon, I think in 2008, and we showed up just as attendees. We're like, wow, that stuff's really cool. Look at all the stuff Lego did when I wasn't buying them. Why aren't we buying them? And we had no good answers, so we dived back into it. And I bought my first power function setup. I bought one of the cars, but it didn't have the remote control. And so a car without a remote control, you turn it on, it runs across the floor of your apartment and hits the wall. That is not cool. And the year after that, I first discovered Great Ball Contraptions. Like, whoa, wait a minute. You run the motor, and maybe you have to chase the balls, but you do it on the table, they fall on the carpet, you're done. With Great Ball Contraption, you can have all the fun of building cool car-like things, mechanical devices, and you get to sit in the comfy chair while you do it. So there's no chasing, there's no running it down. And I've been going like gangbusters ever since. This is the theme for me. It stimulates all the little mechanical building desire I have. There's difficult things to work through. You can solve problems, and then you can be done and put it back on the shelf, and it's reasonably contained. You can see it working without actually having to, go out into the woods and drive your fancy car somewhere over the hills in the mud and everything else. So that's what got me out of my Dark Ages. It's what I keep coming back to. Yeah. I try building in other themes, but I have the artistic sense of an 8-year-old, so when I build in other themes, it's so all the 8-year-olds feel like they could do that too.
Yeah.
Whereas when I build ball contraption, I like to think the 8-year-olds are like, wow, that's really cool. I try to throw in some easy modules. So like I have, I'll throw in a pitch right now. If you go to greatballcontraption.com, there's currently a wiki up there that we're making use of and expanding out as part of the community. There's sets of directions for various things. Like in Chicago, they had a workshop with a parts list. You can come through and build one. I tried to do that here, but we didn't have the participation. But I have a very simple ball contraption set of directions you can find for a easy push arm module. And I had a point at the start of this, and I've lost track of it.
So ball contraptions is the theme for you. Anybody can do it. I guess the word of warning is if you build that first simple ball contraption, it will not be your last ball contraption.
Absolutely. The number one thing folks come by with me is they have ideas for ball contraptions. And I'm like, that's great. I like to hear it, but I have more good ideas than things I can implement right now. The number of times I have 3 or 4 projects that I've started, prototype. The prototype was very spotty. Put it back on the shelf. I'll come back to it. I want to get to it eventually, but I have enough things to work through anyway. Ideas are cheap. Implementations are worthwhile.
That's right. That's right. And I guess another nice thing about Great Ball Contraptions, it is the one theme where color doesn't matter as much. It's about getting the function done more than the aesthetics, although there are some very beautiful things within that form.
For me, it's been all about the function for the most part. What the joke I have with me and my wife is I will figure out how to do something mechanically, and I will bang on the mechanics, and I'll work it all out, and I'll be like, I'm done, I'm sick of that. And because I was in the building trance, I just grabbed everything, it looks like clown vomit, I call it. Then she's like, oh, that's really cool, I should build one of those. And then she'll go through and rebuild it, paying attention to her palette, and it just looks so much nicer. I don't know if you can see the pink and white one on the end there. Yep. She built that originally after I'd gone through I don't know how many different conveyor belts. And oh my God, it's not only gorgeous, but because she made use of all the learnings, that is the single most dependable module I think we have. And it looks great, it runs great, that's exactly it. And so what I'm trying to develop as a builder is at least paying attention when I'm going through it, because I never rebuild, I get bored once I've solved it mechanically. But if I build it the first time, like I have that little black and white ball pump, I only picked up black and white parts to build that, and it came out looking much nicer. Mm-hmm. And so the dream is I want to grow up and be Akiyuki. I don't know if you've seen him on YouTube. And so his stuff not only functions amazingly, it looks beautiful. And so I have aspirations, and in the meantime, just going to start making things that don't look terrible when I'm done, because I thought about how they might look while I'm building them. But for me, first and foremost, I'm all about the mechanical stuff. If I'm not having an interesting mechanical problem, I don't care what it looks like. And so, pretty is nice, but working is better.
And that's Lego for you. There's, I don't think I've spoken to anyone that isn't constantly evolving and growing and learning new skills and putting them into practice. And definitely Great Ball Contraptions, you get to put those skills to the test, because at the end of the day, you're going to put it on a table and turn it on, and it's got to work.
Well, and they're always evolving. Like I've learned, this is the first year for this giant little subterranean wheel that I have spinning around on the car track. And both between the helpful contributions from other AFOLs who have come by and looked at it and seen where I'm having problems, I'll talk about that with them. I've got 2 or 3 ideas that I'm going to come back with it next year and be better. And whereas for some of the push arms, I've got 3 push arms running on the table. Yeah. 2 of them at least are not coming back next year. They were the early prototypes. They looked nice enough to come here, but they're not 100%. They're running like 95%. And 95% sounds fine when you think about it that way, but when you multiply it by 8 hours of showtime, that's a lot of failures. It's a lot of having to babysit. So we're going to retire those and come back with probably just 1 push arm module, maybe 2, 1 for the workshop, 1 for, this is my idealized version that isn't simplified. Because, like I said, I had the directions published for the simple push arm one, and that's a 98% module. It does have 1 spot where it jams, but depending on how you end up building it, everyone's going to have different problems. I'm not going to try to solve that one, but I want to have one for myself that I can turn it on and walk away from.
Right.
Like I said, that's normally at conventions what my wife will do is she'll have 1 or 2 modules only. She'll turn them on at the start of the show. She'll come back 6 hours later and turn them off, count the balls, it's the right number, she's done.
Right.
Whereas I will have, 6 or 8 modules, and I will have sat here for most of the show. I team out with some of the other collaborators, but I miss a lot of the activities because things need babysitting.
Now, is counting the balls at the end of the night, is that the bane of the Great Ball Contraption operator? Is what happened to that 1 ball?
You pretty much know you're going to leak, and some of the leakings are going to go out in the crowd, and people are usually very helpful. Yep. They will return them to you, but you're going to come home with fewer balls than you started with. And that's one of the reasons I'm so glad they're back in print with the different colors, is that the collector's market on the old soccer, it's much easier to say, oh, I lost a ball when they're a dime a pop. When they've gotten up to $1 a pop in the resale market, that's when you feel like, oh, well, okay, I knew that was going to happen, but you're less happy about it.
I think as this theme grows from convention to convention, it would be nice if LEGO had an official Great Ball Contraption set at some point. Sort of a basic starter with the hopper, a pusher, some basic mechanics.
I really like the individuality of the Great Ball Contraptions. One of the things that I love that Brick World Chicago has the class where they have the exact, they had a parts list. I think you can even buy pre-stacked things, but they all came out looking exactly identical. What I really wanted with my push arm thing is that I say build a trough out of Lego. I want you to come home with your own color scheme and everything else, because having 30 modules that look exactly the same looks a lot like you went to the store.
Right.
Having 30 people say, this is my take on the idea, because if you want to set, that's all the box stuff. If you want to come to a LEGO convention, it's all about the mocks. And, similar mocks are better than no mocks, but identical mocks, that's not a show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you got me there, that's for sure. I can't lost looking at them again. I do like the rolly arm sweeper pusher. I think you do need a lexicon in the Great Ball Contraption world. But I think sweepy, pushy, rolly arm is the best description of it.
We know what we're talking about there, It's got some of the old car tracks. I don't remember what set they're from. I just bought some of those at Brick's Cascade. Mm-hmm. There's a vendor there who just dumps out bags of, other people's Lego on the table. You can buy it. The year I saw some of those pieces in there, because Thomas Mueller, out of L.A., does giant things and makes great use of those. He has one spiral that's like 6 feet high. It's fantastic. And I want some of those pieces. I know I can do something with it, but I hadn't owned any of them.
Yeah.
So the moment I came home, I actually have enough for like a circle and a half. And this is the first year I put them together. It's working pretty well, but I've learned a lot of things running it for 8 hours.
Now, is the brush, is that the car wash brush? That's the sweeper part?
Street sweeper.
Yeah, okay.
That is the street sweeper brush. I went through a couple other variations on trying for it, but the street sweeper brush combines, it's a wheel, and it's very, very soft, so it's less likely to get stuck on things. So I do have to roll over a couple of speed bumps, and it's still kind of finicky.
Yeah.
But the bright splash of blue on the otherwise grayish module, I think also gets kind of eye-catching.
And the tentacles are a nice touch. I think that's a good way to go.
It's definitely, the theme inspired itself when I had the giant arm reaching around, like this looks like a giant bit of tentacles. So I did some decorating there, went for the deep sea theme. Because, tentacles are just cool.
Yeah, you can't, and if you collected Lego for any amount of time, you end up with 1 billion tentacles. It's like a rule.
And they're hard to build with otherwise, so they're pretty much just a decorative element. The times when you see someone actually do something functional with them, that's awesome. Yeah. But in the meantime, I have them. I'm going to stick them onto something.
That's right. Well, congratulations again. Great Ball Contraptions. They need the word great in them every time, I think.
BBC, because that's a lot to say.
And thank you for bringing them, and thank you for talking to me.
Right, it's been a pleasure.
It's great how the Great Ball contraption designers meld that form and function.
Yeah, you can tell that they're engineers at heart, but they still know how to create contraptions that look cool.
So once again, thank you for bringing us these interviews. I can't wait to hear more, and there are more.
Yes. Next week, we wrap up our BrickCon 2015 coverage with 3 more designers. We have Jeffrey Tom talks Lego CPUs, Ty Keltner keeps us guessing, and Robin Slather waves the maple leaf in advance of BrickCon.
I can't wait for it. Until next time, I'm James.
And I'm still Jeff.